What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be discussing the pros of dating here in Medellín, Colombia. Yes, you heard correctly, I did say pros. Now, I know there's a lot of rhetoric online about how it's bad of dating here in Medellín, Colombia, and I did make a video on how dating is cooked here in Medellín, Colombia in 2026. But I do want to say this, that I still believe there are a lot of pros to dating here in Medellín, Colombia, and then in general, overall, just Colombia in general. Starting off with number one, that is going to be that the rejection or rejections here are just not as harsh as they are in the United States. Now, if you're someone who is used to doing cold approach, or you've ever approached a woman in general in the United States, or maybe in Europe it's not that bad, but definitely in the United States or Canada, the very Western influenced countries, you will know that being rejected is very brutal in the United States. I myself can recall experiences where I've been at a club, went to approach a woman just to ask her name or something simple, a simple hello, and the chick would completely ignore me. Or I've even gotten this at times where women have looked me up and down and then looked straight and didn't say a word, didn't acknowledge my presence or anything like that. Especially as well when I've gone out and done cold approach as well, sometimes the rejection is just completely brutal. Now, this I understand for women in the United States because they're approached so often, they feel the need that they need to be more aggressive when it comes to rejection. But here in Colombia, because it is very much the culture here where people don't like to say no, and this can be a good thing or a bad thing, but in general, your rejections are going to be nowhere near the experience that you have in the United States. There's been many times where I've cold approached women in malls or walking on the streets or something like this, and I'll very politely get, oh, I have a boyfriend, or I'm, they'll say yes, they'll give me their number, and then later they may not pick up. But in general, there is never any disrespect or a woman being rude to you here when you are getting rejected, or if they're, rejecting you. It's usually a polite, a simple, no, I have a boyfriend, or, like I said, they will give you their number. They may respond a little bit, then ghost you, but overall, the experience is not unpleasant. And yet I know as guys, it can be very hard for us to want to approach and, try to cold approach a woman. But like I said, here, whether you do it in a gym, it's in a mall, or even a social setting, the interactions are going to be a lot more pleasant than they would be if you were to get rejected in the United States. Into number two, women in Medellín, Colombia naturally will just be more fit and feminine than women in the United States, or maybe even Europe, or especially Western influenced countries. Now, here in Medellín, there is a heavy gym/exercise culture. You can see this day to day by just going to the gyms. The gyms are always packed. Women here care about their appearance. Whether that's you going out on a Sunday to a ciclovia here, you will see tons of people walking, running, and in general, just overall exercise is something that is just a way of life here. Now, I'm not gonna front and say, oh, you will never see a fat girl here in Medellín, Colombia, or in Colombia in general, because I've seen a ton of them. So it's not like it doesn't exist here, but the obesity rate is definitely much higher in the United States than you will find here in general in Medellín, Colombia. Now, as far as women being more feminine here, it is just very pleasant to be in the company of women here. They're very soft, they're very demure. They are not going to debate or argue with you really that much. I'm not saying that they won't do it. I'm just going to say that they don't do it as often as women in the United States do it. Now, with the women in the United States, I don't know if this has something to do with the music that they listen to, whether it be anything from Cardi B to Gorilla or whoever may currently be out as far as female hip hop artists. But sometimes when I would talk to women in the United States, they would give off the same energy as these type of female rappers. You know, it's the boss babe, I don't need a man type thing. You don't get that here in Medellín, Colombia. So yes, it is something that is a huge pro and definitely very pleasant to experience when it comes to dating here in Medellín, Colombia. Going into the next pro, that is going to be the cost of dating. Being that the US dollar is still very strong here in Colombia in general, it is not very expensive to date even still here in a city like Medellín, Colombia, which recently was rated the most expensive city here in Colombia. Now, depending on where you go and what type of dates you have, it can be very affordable, not only to date, but to date multiple women, which is not the case in the United States. Being it that I remember very vividly in Miami, if I just wanted to go out for drinks with a girl, I would spend at least $100. Now, let's say you went on 2 dates a week and you spent at least $100 a date. That is $200 a week, which is $800 a month. Now, here you can spend a lot less than that. Also, women here do not mind going on coffee dates. They do not mind going for dates for ice cream. You can even take a girl out to a date to McDonald's and they're okay with that. Now, I do want to say this. Of course, this is not all women. You will get some women here who, you know, watch too much social media or whatever, and they feel like they are better than that, or they just want an actual proper dinner date. But the large majority, the vast majority of women here are okay with something simple. You know, you don't have to go to a super fancy restaurant here and order a bunch of drinks and stuff like that. Now, I do want to say this. If you are going to the top of the top restaurants here, the Rituals, the Runicos, the Mamba Negra, those type of restaurants, and you are letting the girl pretty much order whatever she wants to order and drink as much as she wants to drink, you can end up spending as much as you do in the United States here on a single date. So it can be expensive, but in general, if you are dating the right way here, that it can be very cheap and very affordable. Now, quick shameless plug, if you do plan on coming to Medellín, Colombia, or planned on living here, and you want to be more successful with dating, you want to know all the secrets and tricks and everything, feel free to reach out to me and make a consultation, as I can help you with this. With that being said, getting into the next pro of dating here in Medellín, Colombia, and that is going to be women here are more affectionate. Now, I can't say how much you appreciate this small detail. Now, of course, yes, the women here are affectionate with everyone, but it is very refreshing when you go on a date with a woman here in Medellín, Colombia, and this is just Paisas in general, so it doesn't necessarily mean Medellín. It can be Antioquia. As long as you are in the Antioquia part of Colombia, the women tend to be this way, but especially here in Medellín. The women are extremely affectionate. Now, there's nothing more refreshing than when you go on a date and then you know that a woman is interested in you right away, you know, because she's being affectionate and showing interest, versus in the United States, granted, maybe you might get a little bit of affection from a woman on a first or a second date, but it's not going to be a lot. Versus here in Medellín, Colombia, women are affectionate if they're interested, usually within the first hour of meeting you. Not saying you're going to be making out or, you know, you're going to be kissing on within, you know, 5 minutes of meeting them. But women here are naturally a lot more warmer and they're affectionate. Once you do experience, it's very hard to go back from it. And I will say this from experience. I remember after dating a bunch of Paisas, I met a girl at a gym here and she was from Bogota. She's Rola. And I remember on the first date, there was just no affection. And when I've dated a few costeñas or women from just other parts of Colombia, because Medellín does tend to act kind of like a New York or LA, where you'll get Colombians from all over Colombia here, not just only paisas. When they weren't the same, I almost felt awkward, or not awkward, I just felt, it felt different. You know, the vibe felt different. Now, not that there's anything wrong with it, it's actually normal, but you get so accustomed to how affectionate the women are here that when you don't have a woman who's affectionate right away, it just, the vibe feels off, or something just feels different. So that is another pro of dating here in Medellín, Colombia, is that the women here are going to be generally pretty affectionate. All right, so going into the next pro here, and that is going to be, you do not need the social proof, you do not need the flashy lifestyle in order to date here in Medellín, Colombia. For a lot of the women here, they just care about stability and having a good guy who can provide. Versus in the United States, if you didn't have the most aesthetic Instagram profile, the latest Louis Vuitton shirt or wallet or social proof, most girls there are not wanting to really fuck with you, to be honest. And here in Medellín, that is not the case. Now, of course, there are a lot of women who are attracted to that. I'm not going to say they're not, and these are generally your 8, 9s, and 10s, but there are still a lot of good women here who don't care about that stuff. You don't need, you know, you can go out on a date with a basic t-shirt, some jeans, and some Converse, and still be able to go out on a date with a very beautiful woman. You can go out to eat ice cream, or, you know, go to McDonald's for a date, and the date would still be considered a success. Versus in the United States, if you're not taking them to Mastro's or, you know, something else. I mean, girls are complaining about going to Cheesecake Factory in 2025 and 2026, and Cheesecake Factory is expensive as shit, you know. I love that women try to downplay that, but it's that way, of course, when they're not paying for anything. But overall, in general, the women who are genuinely interested in you for you, not just for Instagram story or something like that, here in Medellín, Colombia, they are not going to care about the restaurant you go to, that you showed up in an Uber, that you have basic clothes on. None of that stuff really matters. So I would say this is the biggest pro of dating here in Medellín, Colombia, is that you just don't have those same pressures or social pressures or economical pressures that you have in the United States. And it's actually one of the more rewarding things of dating, not only just here in Medellín, Colombia, but in Colombia in general. So that's it for this video, guys. Let me know, did I miss any pros? Do you have any pros that you want to add from your personal experience? I just wanted to give some very general, broad pros that I think a lot of you guys will be able to identify with or relate to if you have been here to Medellín, Colombia. So that's it for this video. Appreciate you guys watching, and remember to subscribe, hit that notification button, and I'll see you in the next one.